Will everyone please stand and join me in singing Happy Birthday to our town, Hudson. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Hudson, happy birthday to you. Thank you. You may be seated. Happy 100th birthday, town of Hudson.
Happy birthday, Hudson. Can we all say it one time, good and loud? Happy birthday. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for coming to join us to celebrate this momentum occasion, the 100th-year-old birthday of the good town of Hudson. We're pleased to have you with us this afternoon, and we have several special guests here who we'll introduce a little bit later in the program. We thank you for taking this time to come and be with us. And we want to thank all the citizens of Hudson and the surrounding area. This is your party, so we hope you will enjoy it. First, let me cover the required and necessary things. The law says we have to do certain things. Tell you about the exits at the back and the exits on the side. And then the necessary thing is the bathrooms down the hall. As you go through the exits, turn left, and you'll find the restroom just down the hall. And then we hope you will buy some of the things at the back table here and get some of the things that are free. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Tim Britton, pastor of the Hudson Methodist Church, who will lead us in our invocation.
Would you join me in prayer? Father, this is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you that 100 years ago you inspired men and women to establish the town of Hudson. We're grateful, Lord, that we live in a town where our birthday celebration can begin with prayer to you. And we live in a town where part of the Centennial observance can be a community sunrise service on Easter Sunday to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. You've blessed our town with a century full of blessings, and we praise you for them.
Hudson is a lot like the little red train that we heard about when we were little children. It was trying to go up the mountain, having a hard time. And it said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And what happened? It made it. Some loggers came to this beautiful wooded area, set up logging camps, and with little but their hands, oxen, their strong backs, they said, I think I can. They hauled their logs and lumber by wagon pulled by oxen out through the muddy, routed streets. Their mail was delivered by horseback to a little location on Buck Shoals. They worshiped in a little church across behind where the food line is now. Along there is called Gunpowder Church. They built a little one-room school called the Lingle School. Then the rail came, the cotton mill came, stores were built, the town was incorporated, all because a handful of people said, I think we can. 100 years later, look at our beautiful churches, schools, factories, homes, and many fine stores. We, along with a lot of Caldwell County, have the greatest community college and technical institute in this state. All because our good townspeople kept saying, we think we can, we think we can. Thank you, Hudson, for your attitude. By the Centennial Choir, directed by Mr. Keith Smith. Keith is a member of our Centennial Committee and does many things here in the town, and we certainly appreciate Keith for all that he does.
As we kick off a year of celebration, I think that it's appropriate that we pull back the veil and travel back 100 years to a simpler time to 1905, the year of Hudson's birth. In 1905, Americans looked to the future with wide-eyed optimism and with an innocence that has long since faded from our midst. In March of 1905, Teddy Roosevelt was just beginning his first elected term as president after having ascended to the presidency at the death of William McKinley. In 1905, North Carolina's governorship transferred from Charles B. Aycock to R.B. Glenn. In 1905, the following stars were born: Greta Garbo, Myrna Loy, Joseph Cotton, Henry Fonda. And in 1905, George M. Cohan owned the Great White Way, also known as Broadway, where his patriotic musicals produced hit songs such as the following.
July.
100 years ago, only 8% of United States homes had a telephone, and a cell was where you kept a prisoner. The average wage in the country was 22 cents an hour, and the average life expectancy was 47 years. The leading causes of death were pneumonia and influenza, not heart disease, and maybe that's because folks back then worked harder for longer hours. In spite of new strides in technology, remember the Wright brothers had just taken to the air just 2 years before this, 1905 remained a time of innocence and simplicity. Hudson neared his first birthday. The classic English hymnal was being edited for publication in 1906. And famous composer Ralph Vaughan Williams harmonized the following hymn. It's based on the Old Forest Green melody, which some of you will recognize. Popular tunes that you've heard today were all written in 1905. We'll close with a 1905 tune that seems to capture the essence of spirit and optimism of that bygone era, those halcyon days of old. This tune was written by a gentleman of the name of Harry von Tiltzer, who penned over 2,000 tunes in his lifetime, and the song we're about to sing was his personal favorite. With the twist we'll put on it, I'm sure you'll see it's still relevant today.
Go to a party, and when you attend someone's 100th birthday party, usually you're reminiscing and thinking about things in the past because you know that your best days are behind you. But with the city of Hudson, you're strong, you're healthy, you have a lot of vitality, and you're not young enough to know that we all know that your best days are ahead of you. I certainly congratulate you on your past, and I offer you best wishes for a continued and prosperous future. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You know, a lot of things change, but I'm glad that one thing hasn't changed about Hudson. It's still pronounced the same way, Hudson, H-U-T-S-O-N. I've heard that here this afternoon, and that's great. When I came up on the stage, and Rebecca had asked me to come and to do this, and when I came up, I looked around the stage here, and there's something wrong with this picture. Sharon and I are sitting up here between two bearcats and a blue demon from Granite Falls. And I knew right then there was something wrong with this picture. The county commissioners are in Washington. This is the weekend that they have the National Association of Counties meeting. And so all the commissioners there, and Rebecca asked me if I would do this, and I told her I would. A message to the citizens of the town of Hudson from the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners. As you mark your town centennial, we extend our congratulations to you on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the thousands of citizens of Caldwell County. The town of Hudson's first 100 years have been characterized by an unrelenting dedication to excellence. You should be proud of the part the town of Hudson has played in Caldwell County's accomplishments. With the record of achievement established by the town of Hudson, over the last century, we have every confidence that you will continue to perform a vital role in our county's and country's prosperity. Again, congratulations on reaching this remarkable milestone, and may the next 100 years be even more successful. That is signed by Commissioners Herb Green, Fay Higgins, Alden Starnes, Tim Sanders, and Dr. John Thuss. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Bill. On behalf of the town of Granite Falls, I've come today to wish you congratulations on this observance of your first 100 years. As you celebrate this year, I know at times you'll look back and remember those folks that your founders and the events that have laid the foundation that has made Hudson the great town that it is today. And if I could make a birthday wish for you, it would be that when those folks gather in 100 years to celebrate your bicentennial, that they'll look back and say those folks in 2005 did it right. They built on a firm foundation, they extended the framework, and we were able to continue to make Hudson a great place to live, to raise a family, and to work. I congratulate you on your first 100 years, and good luck on the next.
First, let me express Dr. Boham's regrets that he was not able to be here today, and he asked me to appear in his place, which is not as big a risk as it may first appear in that he said, "Go read this." So, a resolution of the Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute Board of Trustees to the Town of Hudson. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute adopt the following. Whereas Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute has proudly served the citizens of Caldwell County for over 40 years, and whereas the Town of Hudson has been the permanent home of the college, and whereas the Town of Hudson is proudly celebrating its centennial birthday, be it further resolved that we wish to acknowledge and extend to the Town of Hudson a very happy birthday and joyous centennial celebration, and be it further resolved that this resolution is spread upon the minutes of the Board of Trustees and become thereby a part of the permanent records of this board, and that a framed copy be presented to the Town of Hudson. Approve this 10th day of February 2005. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening. I too would like to say happy birthday to the Town of Hudson. Some of you may not know it, but I'm a proud graduate of Hudson High School. Go Hornets. I have on my Hudson green, and I'm very happy to be here to celebrate with you today. I've always been very impressed with the traditions and values of the Town of Hudson. When you do something, you do it with class and style. Just look at what you've done with this school building. I'm so happy that the Town of Hudson has been able to do everything they've been able to do with it. Hudson may be a small town, but I know you have a big heart. I see that every time I go to fall festivals in the Hudson schools or community meetings or sports events. I'm always gratified to see how many parents and members of the community come out and support the schools. So on behalf of the Board of Education, happy birthday. I see Mr. Lathan, my principal at Hudson High School. I can't ever call him anything except Mr. Lathan. I have this plaque to present from the Caldwell County Board of Education. It says simply, congratulations to the Town of Hudson on their centennial celebration presented by the Caldwell County Board of Education March 1st, 2005. Congratulations and thanks for being such a great town.
Thank you, Mayor Bean. It's my pleasure to be here representing Lenore and Lenore citizens and the Lenore City Council. I do appreciate the invitation. And then likewise, I want to congratulate Hudson on their 100th. We celebrated our 150th just a few years ago, and it takes a lot of hard work. To have a successful and a big party takes a lot of hard work, and I commend the people who served on the committee. Thank you, choir. That was inspiring and well done. Sharon, you graduated from Hudson High School. I didn't have a choice because I didn't live in Hudson, but I married a Hudson High School graduate. And Teresa, my wife, would you please stand? She's with me today. Thank you very much. Lenore and Hudson are interwoven. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we're separate towns, but we do so many things together, and we cooperate. And in my opinion, it's never been better, and it's only going to get better. As you know, we work together on utilities for both towns, and as I tell everybody every day, it's not Hudson, Lenore, Granite, Cajun Mountain Gameway, it's Caldwell County, and we're all part of that. But Hudson, thank you for being what you are. Thank you for the moral fiber that's always been in this town, and I'm so proud of this town and what you do and what you've accomplished. I have a resolution, Mayor Bean, if you'd come forward, please. This says, Town of Hudson celebrating 100 years. Whereas the name Hudson was first selected as the official name of the village in 1880 in honor of brothers Monroe and Johnny Hudson, and whereas the Town of Hudson was granted a charter of incorporation on the first day of March 1905 from the state of North Carolina, and whereas Hudson's first mayor was Professor Phillips, who also served as a school teacher, and whereas Hudson has experienced growth throughout the years by the establishment of area churches, beginning with First Baptist Church, dating from 1831, and businesses centered around the abundance of timber. And whereas the 2005 Centennial Committee has scheduled a year of events to commemorate Hudson's 100th birthday, including a birthday party celebration to be held on Sunday, March the 6th, 2005. And whereas said centennial celebration is a matter of historic importance not only to the citizens of Hudson, but to the state of North Carolina as well. Now therefore, I, David W. Barlow, Mayor of the City of Lenoir, and on behalf of the Lenoir City Council, commend the Town of Hudson as you celebrate 100 years of incorporation and extend our best wishes for an exciting time of growth, prosperity, and happiness this 6th day of March 2005, signed by David W. Barlow, Mayor of the City of Lenoir. Thank you very much. Thank you. My pleasure.
I am proud to be here today to represent the citizens of Sawmills. And I say happy birthday, Hudson, to all the citizens. You have always been great neighbors to us. Ever since I've been in office, you've never neglected to give us and work with us, try to help us progress. And I do say happy birthday for 100 years of progress in Hudson. And I too am a Hornet, just like. But I have something to present you, Mayor Bean, from the town of Hudson, town of Sawmills to Hudson. Maybe we'll be flying 100 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first remembrances of Hudson started about 50 years ago. I'm a lifelong resident of Caldwell County, but first remember Hudson, they were just right up there with Mayberry. I mean, they were just first class. But as we celebrate her 100th birthday this year, she's become a bustling metropolis right there with London, New York, and Los Angeles, let me tell you. But she's doing a wonderful job. But as we celebrate this 100th birthday, I think one of the legacies of Hudson is the education that Hudson Elementary School, Hudson High School, and Caldwell Community College has given each one of us. And I feel like we're all related because I know there's a lot of people in here who attended those three schools. And Mr. Latham, thank you. For me personally, Mr. Mayor, live long and prosper. Best wishes and thank you for the contribution you make to Hudson. From the citizens of Cajun Mountain, happy birthday, Hudson.
Thank you. We will cherish all these thoughts and gifts for a long, long time. And now I'd like to introduce one of our own, our chairperson of our Centennial Committee, who has worked hard many, many days on this centennial, Ms. Nell Green.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you all for coming out to help us celebrate our 100th birthday today. I must say that none of you look 100 years old. But this will be the only time you'll be celebrating it, so let's have fun. It's my privilege now to introduce someone who has been very active in North Carolina. He's my neighbor, Mac Jarvis. I guess I should begin by saying he's probably the best neighbor that you could ever want. I think most of you know Mac. As a very young man, he started work with the North Carolina Department of Corrections. At the age of 29, he was the youngest superintendent of any prison in North Carolina. Sometime later, he took over the high-rise prison in Morganton and worked there for many years as its superintendent. A little bit later on, when Governor Jim Hunt was in office, he was appointed the director of the prison system for North Carolina. And he worked with Governor Hunt for a number of years. In fact, he spent 37 years in the Department of Corrections. When he retired a few years ago, Governor Hunt gave him the Longleaf Pine Award. I have to say this about Mac. He has a lovely wife named Janet who keeps him in hand. I hope she does at any rate. He has a golfing partner in my husband who says that Mac's the best golfer. And I'm saying this publicly, Mac. At any rate, Mac has two children. He has Mac III, who is a Baptist minister, his daughter Jackie, and he has 7 grandchildren. So let's welcome Mac this afternoon.
My goodness, Nell, thank you. Thank you very much. It's good to be here. It's sort of hot up here on the stage, so I'll tell you like King Henry VIII told all of his wives and Elizabeth Taylor told all of her husbands. I won't keep you very long. So, as Ron said, I went to Lenoir High. I was a few years ahead of David, or Mayor Barlow, but I went to Lenoir High, and I married a Hudson girl too. She's not with us today. She's under the weather a little bit, but Janet Jenkins. And I remember when shortly after we got married, I said, well, we start having kids. I said, we're going to be able to let those kids go to Lenoir High or to Lenoir schools. And she said, well, when we start having children, they won't be a Lenoir High. And she was right. There wasn't a Lenoir High. So we did the next best thing, and we moved to Hudson. And I've come to grow and love this place. It is just so nice. It's such a great place to raise children. And it's just a great place to live. We have a low crime rate, which I'm certainly interested in, working a long time in the Department of Correction. And it's just a good place. And I think this committee has done such an outstanding job. We're just getting started, but already we've had some great events with New Year's Eve and with Doc Watson concert and now the birthday party. So I just want to wish Hudson a very, very happy birthday, and I'm very thankful I can be part of this and live in this great community. Thank you.
I know that you have read all of the Midford series books that Jan has written. I think there have been 8. Is that right, Jan? Yes. And the 9th one is just about to come out this fall. And unfortunately, that's going to be the end of it. But I'm like somebody else said today, I want to know what happens to Dooley and Father Tim and all those other characters that we've come to love through the years. I think Jan will probably tell us. She had a very successful advertising career before she quit that and moved to Blowing Rock to become a writer. And of course, when she moved to Blowing Rock, she moved to our hometown. We had moved to Hudson some years before that, and Jan went back to Blowing Rock to begin writing her series, and many of the characters in her books are based on characters in Blowing Rock. And I didn't want to call them Percy or whoever she called them. I wanted to call them by their real name because I kind of had an idea of who Jan was writing about. She has inspired so many people with her inspirational books, and she's met hundreds and hundreds of people who have come up to her and said, Jan, I want to thank you. I read this book at a certain time that I needed in my life. Even some people came in today to say that, and I'm so thankful that you did say that.
Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Nell. I came prepared to have a good time, but what I find is I'm so proud. I'm so proud of all of you and the way you love your town and the way you love this wonderful old schoolhouse, which of course I went to school in. I just think your enthusiasm and your emotion is so contagious. So like Miss Minnie Pearl always said when she went somewhere, she says, "Howdy, I'm so proud to be here." I want to thank all of you for coming out today and showing your pride in Hudson. It's been over 56 years since I left here, and I've been back only once before. It feels very, very good to be here. I would like to introduce some family before we get started. My brother Barry Setzer and his beautiful wife Bonnie from Blowing Rock. Would you stand and let everybody see two people I'm really proud of? Thank you. By the way, I have never been, and I've been on a lot of stages and doing a lot of book tours. This is the most big wigs I have ever been on the stage with. I would appreciate it if my 6th grade school teacher, Miss Etta Phillips, would please stand. Miss Phillips, I was absolutely wild about you.
That goes double.
Miss Phillips was fair to everybody. And one of the things I loved about her is that she was so darn much fun. She took us on a trip to Linville Caverns. It was just the best time I ever had. And I was looking at pictures, the old pictures the other day, and I was just remembering that you had great legs.
Still got 'em.
You know what she said? Still got them. Miss Phillips, as a matter of fact, is a champion golf player. Did you all know that about her? Well, in any case, I also, while I'm at it, I want to take my hat off to Nell Green. I wish one of you ladies would do that for me. You've got the hats back here. This is the Red Hat Society. Look, there's a hat off to you. Another hat to Nell Green and all the people who have worked so hard to pull off this enormous project. Now, what this project does, at least for me, is allow us to stop and remember. I remember thinking that all teachers were single. After all, we called them Miss Cheryl, Miss Phillips, Miss Downs, and I want you to know that I was devastated to learn that they were all married. I felt betrayed. I honestly believed that teachers were here on earth just for us. Well, in any case, who remembers Miss Nan Downs? For so many years, her little house on the corner right down the street was a kind of monument to teachers everywhere and a lighthouse for children. When I was in her 1st grade, and I was honored to be in her 1st grade, Miss Downs looked at a picture I was drawing. You know, memory is a wonderful thing. We're all remembering during this centennial. I was seated in my little desk, and she came up behind me to the left of me. I think I was drawing a picture of Dick and Jane and maybe Spot. Remember them? And she looked at that picture and she says, "My goodness, how wonderful." Well, she took off down the hall to show my picture to other teachers. I will never, ever forget what her praise did for me that day, how much it meant, and how much it has continued to mean. Teachers, and how many here are teachers? Bless your hearts. You have such powerful, long-lasting, lifelong influence. Thank you for using that influence well. In any case, several years ago, must have been about 10 or 12 years ago, I went to see Miss Downs. I just pulled into her driveway, just sort of spontaneously. She didn't know I was coming. I didn't know I was coming. And I knocked on her back door. It was summertime, the screen door. And she came to the door and she looked out at me and she said, now remember, 50 years since she had laid eyes on me. She said, "Is that Janice Wilson?" Now how about that? We remember you today, Miss Downs. I remember skipping second grade and landing straight into third. Did anybody here ever skip a grade? This lady did, that fellow did. That's kind of hard to do. You know, you go up that next grade with all those people older and bigger than you are and smarter and everything, but that's the way they did it back then. I don't think they do that anymore. My little sister skipped first grade because when I came home from school, honey, I was teaching her the multiplication table and the alphabet, and I had a little switch, you know. So she just sailed right by Nan Downs' class and went right into second grade. I remember when my grandmother, Miss Fanny Clore, I wrote a book about her, by the way, called Miss Fanny's Hat, a darling and precious lady. I remember the first day she brought me to school, my first day in school. Well, she brought my little sister Brenda as well. Now, Mama was very proud that Brenda could sing God Bless America. And so Mama just asked Miss Downs if Brenda could just sing that song, and I was so humiliated, I about crawled under my desk. I thought, why did this have to happen? Brenda just reared back, little old young'un, about 4 years old, and just belted out God Bless America. Well, a few weeks ago, I said, Brenda, you know they've invited me to come to Hudson School and be their keynote speaker. And I said, why don't you just go with me and sing God Bless America? She looked at me and she said, are you out of your mind? Anyway, years afterward, my little sister became a homecoming queen right here at Hudson. I remember being in a talent show in the 7th grade. Now, in my family, we didn't have evening gowns hanging around, so I had to borrow one from a classmate. It was a floor-length, peach-colored satin with a mashed flat silk rose right here on the strap. And I walked out there scared to death, and here's what I sang. I let my heart fall into careless hands that broke my heart in two. You held my dreams like worthless grains of sand. Careless hands don't care when dreams slip through. Can you see why I did not get first prize? That's a whole lot more applause than I got in the 7th grade. Oh, and it was right here on this stage, too. And I believe I was standing about in this same place. I remember being the first girl at Hudson School to wear blue jeans. Can you imagine that? It was my grandfather's idea. That was not my idea. You all teased me to death. I was so humiliated. But you know what? Some places in Europe, they pay you $300 or $400 for a pair of American blue jeans. I was ahead of my time. I remember when our grandfather brought us to school in his old black pickup truck. I was so ashamed of being seen in that pickup truck. And now today, I'm profoundly ashamed of being ashamed of that pickup truck. I'd give anything to have another ride in that old black pickup truck. I remember, and some of you probably do too, how at Hudson School, kids stayed home during the planting and harvesting seasons. Why? Because they had to help their mama and daddy. That's why we were still an agricultural community. They had come to school after doing all that hard work, looking older somehow, more grown up than we were, and maybe a little sleep deprived. I remember the teacher, I believe it was Miss Cheryl. Harold Smith had fallen asleep at his desk. Teacher said, "Harold Smith, What's the answer to that question? He waked up, he said, Mama? Like that, I'll never forget that as long as I live. I hope Harold's not here today, or actually I hope he is. I'd love to see him. Is John C. Smith here? Is Barbara Drum here? Is Clyde and Claude Harold here? Wayne, I saw Wayne Carlton's wife earlier. I said, you know, she married my boyfriend. But if there's anybody here I went to school with, I sure would love to say hello to you afterward. We're all going down to Miss Nan Down's first-class schoolroom. You know, they took me down there earlier, and I walked in, and it looked so much exactly like it did when I was in the first grade, except all the chairs were so small. I just can't believe that I was ever that small. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I remember coming to school each day and absolutely loving every minute of it. I could not wait to get here because I was going to learn something. I loved to learn. I guess I was what you would call a nerd. I remember being in spelling bees with Gareth Ennis, who was the smartest boy in all of Hudson School. And you know his mother was a teacher, so I guess that explains it. But does anybody here remember Gareth Ennis? Here are some people. He died tragically in a car accident with his mother and his little brother. Gareth and I would go toe-to-toe in those spelling bees, and sometimes he won, sometimes I won. I was real proud to be in competition with him. And we remember you today, Gareth Ennis. Now, though Hudson was a mill village of less than 900 people when I was here, and I'm wondering, what's the population now? Becca, do you know? 3,000 people today. That's terrific. Well, somehow, even though we were that tiny village, the world made its way to us. Made its way to us in those Eskimo pies. Y'all remember those? And Dixie cups of ice cream with that little wooden spoon. In those brick hard sugar daddies, remember those? In blue horse notebook paper. If you saved enough blue horse notebook paper wrappers, you could get seeds, or you could get salve. I never did know what I was going to do with salve if I got it, so I didn't try. The thing I really wanted and never got with those blue horse notebook paper wrappers was that Schwinn bicycle. Did anybody? You did? I'm going to hug your neck and send you an autographed book. Good for you. You know, I always wondered if there's anybody out there who ever got one of those bicycles, because it took thousands of those wrappers. That's terrific. I've only met one other person who did that. In any case, here's something I bet y'all don't remember, and that is having really, really good food in the Hudson School cafeteria. Meatloaf, green beans, cherry pie, macaroni and cheese. I mean, it was good eating in that school cafeteria. What do you get today? Pizza, hot dogs, burgers, chips. I'm telling you. You know, I didn't know anything about pizza and chips and Cokes and all of that, because when I went home, my after-school snack would be something like side meat and buttermilk, you know what I mean? I was glad to get it, though, because we had to walk from the bus. It was a long way down there. I remember Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and Halloween when the teachers would ask me to do the cutouts. You know, the cutouts of that colored composition paper? Be cutting out turkeys and Santa Claus and Easter baskets and everything. I just loved doing that. Who else ever did that? Got to stay in and do that. Wasn't that fun? Whoever got to dust the erasers? I can't remember. Why was that such a privilege? You know, the one that got to dust the erasers was, and I was trying to think, I got to dust the erasers once, but I can't remember how I dusted them. Did you just beat them together like that? Okay, well, I've been wondering that. We have other opinions over here. I remember my first Heath bar. I was going out to get the school bus, and there on the school bus grounds was lying in its pristine brown wrapper the first Heath bar I ever saw. To this very day, toffee is my favorite sweet. I remember my first kiss. It happened right here in this auditorium, in the balcony, in the second row. I was in the 7th grade. He was in high school. After he kissed me, he said, "Here's a nickel. Call me when you grow up." I hope he's here today. I remember sitting in Miss Sherrill's 5th grade classroom when a voice came over the loudspeaker. "Attention, teachers and pupils. The war is over." The war is over. Everything we'd prayed for so long. All the reason why we'd had that little victory garden out in the backyard, and all the reason we'd saved bacon grease and hog grease and scrap metal. The war was over. And those are words, and that's good news that I pray we all live to hear again. And now let us remember together Mr. White. Mr. White was a principal, after all, and principals were supposed to call you in their office and whip you with a paddle and send you crying down the hall. But Mr. White was kind, and he was gentle. His authority was the authority of love and respect. I adored Mr. White, as many of us did. He can't be here today because of health reasons, but could we just honor Mr. White? You know, it's interesting. I prayed about this talk, and I decided not to mention the M word. Medford. I just wanted to remember my days in this school and the things that helped form me as a person. But we'll talk. We're going to have questions and answers in just a moment. I just wanted to say that in conclusion, I remember that I always felt different during my school years, which is something I believe a lot of people feel. Sort of always felt out of the loop. I was either too skinny or too fat. I was too smart or too dumb. I was too short or too tall, but always different. My grandmother once said to me, she said, "Janice, you're different." And then she said, "But that's good." I was getting ready to fry okra one day, and while I was washing it, I came across a green bean that had somehow gotten into that mess of okra. Well, honey, times were hard. I cut that green bean in 3 or 4 pieces and coated it with batter, and every now and then In that mess of okra, I'd come across a delicious bite of that green bean. What a difference. I believe it might take the mess of okra to make that one green bean taste so good and be so full of surprise. And without the green bean, all it would be is just another mess of okra. What I'm suggesting is we don't ever need, young, middle-aged, or old, to try to be like everybody else. God didn't make us like everybody else. He made us to be something special, something unique, something different. And don't you grow old and die without finding out what that difference is. And here's how to find out. In my experience, this is how to find out. You say, God, you made me, and you know what you made me to be. Now, I haven't figured it out yet, so what is it? I want you to show me. I want to know. Because whatever you made me to be, that's exactly what I want to be. I'm excited, God. Thank you. And then just stand back. Are there any questions? Come on now, don't be shy. This is Hudson School.
When is the last Mitford book coming out?
When is the last Mitford book coming out? It's coming out in October. I'm working on it now fast and furiously. It's called Light from Heaven. Some of you are a little put out with me because it's going to be the last Mitford book. But I have to tell you, I just don't have anything else to say about Mitford. But I'll continue to write until I tumble over in the grave with God's help. Because that's what He made me to do. And that's what I love to do. That's what gives me joy. And that's what gives me a really deep satisfaction. I wrote about Mitford because I'd lived in Hudson. Lots of my experience living in Hudson is in that book. Lots of my experience from Lenore is in that book. Lots of my experience living in Blowing Rock is in all of those books. I do think a small town is just the best of the best places to live and love each other and raise children. And what I wanted to do with the Mitford series was actually sort of a hymn, if you will, to the small town and to ordinary people like us. Just ordinary people trying to live a decent, ordinary life and do things like have a centennial for your town and fix up the old schoolhouse that was going to fall down. Those things are so important. Here? Is there a possibility of a new series? Yes, and I've already signed a contract for one. Thank you. Now, here's what happened. I knew that I was through with telling the Mitford story. But I didn't think I was quite through with Father Tim. I remembered that Agatha Christie wrote 40 novels about Hercule Poirot. 40 novels, and lots of short stories, too. Her readers didn't want her to let Poirot go. She tried to quit writing about him, but they wouldn't let her. I find Father Tim to be a comfortable, sweet-spirited, deep, lovely man, and I thought, why toss him away and start from scratch with somebody I don't even know? So I'm going forward in the next series with Father Tim, and of course Cynthia. They're going to travel. You know, he's been a terrible stick in the mud. And he's going back in the first book of the series called Home to Holly Springs. He's going back to Mississippi, to the place he was born, and he's going to find out the most shocking and life-changing news of his life. He's 70 years old in the book I'm writing now, Light from Heaven. But really, in many ways, his life is just beginning. The next book in that series will be called Party of Four. That's when he and Cynthia go back to Ireland and he looks into his Irish ancestry. And then he and Cynthia will go to a small town in England where she looks into her own coppersmith ancestry. I'm very, very excited about it, and I hope you all won't abandon me because we've left Mitford. Now, what about Dooley? And what about that money? And is he going to marry Lace? And on and on and on, you all write me letters. You'll know all of that as we go forward because there'll be phone calls back home to Mitford and letters. I mean, I'm not going to let you down. You'll know what happened to Dooley. And you know I'm going to be good to that boy. A woman came up to me one time. She said, Miss Karen, I'll tell you one thing right now. If you're not good to him, I'm just going to quit reading you. And I remember when I was writing the second book, A Light in the Window, remember how Father Tim struggled to know whether he should marry Cynthia, to get up the nerve to just get down on one knee and just do it? Remember how he struggled? Well, you know, I was struggling because I didn't know either. I didn't know if he was going to marry her. I thought he might, but I really didn't know. Not that same woman, but somebody just like her, just somebody who wanted to let me know what was what. Said, Miss Karen, if you don't let Father Tim marry Cynthia, I will never read another one of your books. So, I mean, I'll let him marry Cynthia, you understand. So, people get so involved in my books, and I'm so happy about that. You tell me that they are like family and friends to you. They're like family and friends to me, as a matter of fact. Uncle Billy, for example. I just adore Uncle Billy. He's precious to me. He's one of my heroes, as a matter of fact. Any other questions? Is that, no, she was scratching her head. Let's see. Yeah. Right here? Yes, no, she was asking about the Hallmark Card Association that we had for a time. No, I don't think so. I regret that because I enjoyed my association with Hallmark very much.
Tell us a little bit about the book with the Haints.
The book with what?
The Haints that you're going to put in the Georgian house.
Oh.
I'm not supposed to reveal that.
Nell Green is asking about a book I'm going to write many years in the future. It's about the building of a mid-18th century house. I have so many books to write. I do hope the Lord will let me live a long, long time. Right here's a question.
What's your typical day when you arrive?
What's my typical day when I'm writing? I have to honestly tell you there is no such thing as a typical day in my life. I would give anything if there were. I mean this sincerely. Every day is so different you would just be dumbfounded. But now that I have a dog, I just got her 3 weeks ago. Her name is Gracie. Get up and let Gracie out immediately. And just then begin to carve out some time to go down to my desk and sit and write. There are many, many interruptions, just like you have. We all have interruptions throughout the day. We all have to learn how to live with interruptions. I just try to write around the circumstances of my life. I do know this. When I haven't written for a number of days, and sometimes even for a couple of weeks, I get very agitated, antsy, nervous. Somehow writing processes my life for me. I don't know how to explain it because it's a great mystery. But thank you for asking. I know we've been here a while. I don't want to keep on and on. Nell, would you give me some idea? Should we wrap it up? Yes. One more question. Anybody? Right here. No, that was my first attempt at writing, except for that novel I wrote on blue horse notebook paper. With a number 2 pencil when I was 10 years old. I'll tell you briefly about that. To say that I'd been influenced by Gone with the Wind would be an understatement. I was just writing this novel because I knew at the age of 10 that the Lord had made me to be a writer. I just knew that, just like my name is Janice. I was just writing this book and I'd just hide it, so my little sister wouldn't find it. One day my sister came into the kitchen. She says, "Mama, Mama, Janice wrote a book and it's got damn in it." My grandmother was very fond of the stripped-down hickory switch. And here's what she'd say: "Go out yonder and bring me a switch." Did y'all ever have to go get your own switches? See, never did understand that you had to get your own switch, but you did, and she let me have it, and that's just one reason there is no cussing in my books today. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Jen, thank you so much for that wonderful speech. And we're so proud of you and so proud that you're one of us. Thanks for coming. And I want to thank each of these fellas and ladies back here for their presentation again and for their working with us in all that we do. Mayor Barlow alluded to that, and we certainly do have a good working relation with all these people. And it means a whole lot for our town and for their town and for all of Caldwell County. Edgar, we appreciate you being with us. Okay, I think that about does it. We've got...
Let me say one thing, please. This is something Jan and I both forgot to mention. She's going down to Nan Down's classroom, her first grade classroom, and she'd like to invite you to come down there to see her. We were down there earlier, and she said, "Oh, I can't believe these little seats," but you know what? She still fits in one. So please go down and say hello to Jan and thank her for being here, and then please enjoy our birthday cake.
We do have some cake and punch down front that some of our commissioners are going to cut the cake, I think. Mr. Carl Wagner and Janet Winkler, I believe, are going to cut the cake. And so come and enjoy that. And we hope you've enjoyed this afternoon. And again, happy birthday, Hudson.
We're here in Mrs. Downs' classroom with one of her favorite students, and one I'm sure was, she must have been one of your favorite teachers as well, was she not?
Miss Downs. I love Miss Downs, yes.
And we are doing a TV program for Caldwell County. Is there anything you'd like to say to Caldwell County residents?
Well, as a former resident of Caldwell County, I would like to say that I'm glad to be home again. I'm especially proud of Hudson for the civic pride I find here. It is just phenomenal. Everybody's excited about their town and excited about their wonderful old school where I was a student. So I've traveled a lot in book tours, and not everybody's excited about where they live, so this is a good thing. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of all the citizens of Hudson and the persons of Caldwell County, thank you so much for being with us, Miss Karen.
Thank you, Becca.
And thank you, Caldwell County, for joining us today on our birthday.